Nice.
Hello, good morning and welcome for joining us. The webinar from the Retail Bulletin will start in just a few moments. Right, let's kick things off. Good morning and welcome to the Retail Bulletin. It's our second session of the day, webinar session number 1, Invigorating Physical Store Sales, post-lockdown, digital store transformation. I'd like to say good morning and welcome to you, especially if you've rejoined us after the first session this morning. Thanks for being with us again. We've got a fabulous panel to introduce you to shortly, but for now I'm Darren. I'll be the moderator for the session today. We would love you to get involved in today's panel. So depending on what device you're using, it'll be the top or the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A button. Please do use it. We'd love to get your interaction. We had some brilliant questions from the last session that we ran this morning, and so we'd love to see that repeated again. Don't worry if there's no questions, I can keep this thing going and we've got lots to talk about with a brilliant panel, but we do really love to get your involvement. So please go ahead, use the Q&A at any time. And my job as the moderator is to make sure that all your questions get answered. Unless we achieve that, I don't feel like a job well done has been done. Without further ado, I'm going to go over to ask our panel to introduce themselves. And if I may start with you, Sharon, please. Good morning, welcome for joining us.
Good morning, Darren. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, I'm Sharon Solis. I'm the head of retail at Astrid and Miyu. For those who don't know Astrid and Miyu, we're a contemporary omnichannel jewellery brand. We launched back in 2012. We've just been ranked as one of the fastest growing companies in the UK, ranked number 9 by the Sunday Times Fast Track 100, which we're really proud of. And I guess our ambition is to keep growing with a big focus on growing our physical stores, both in the UK but also internationally now. We're known for revolutionising the jewellery experience through our experiential retail and through a strong community and our innovative designs. What do? I guess at Astrid and Miyu, I'm responsible for the development and the delivery of retail strategy. My mission is to ultimately ensure we're present in key locations and to really deliver that exceptional and unique personal experience that we deliver in stores. For the last 12 months, we've really focused on our strengths and our online has grown amazingly. And I guess we've really just prepared for the expansion into the different markets for the coming sort of years. Previous to Astrid and Miyu, I've always worked in brands that have been building and growing. I worked for Mango at the very beginning, so for 15 years I helped them to grow and deliver within the UK. Went on to work with Swarovski, which is the first sort of jewellery brand I worked with. Then went on to Maj, which is part of the SMCP group. And then last, just before Astrid, I worked with the Swedish brand Happy Socks to sort of develop and roll out the retail stores within the UK. So yeah, I guess store expansion and startups is really at the heart of what I love to do and what my journeys look like until now.
Brilliant, well welcome and thanks for joining us. I love Happy Socks, by the way. I've got lots of Happy Socks. They are a particular favourite of mine. But yeah, thanks, great to have you here with us as well. Emma, tell us about you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Emma Siveyer. Thanks for having me here today. It's great to be here. I work for 3. So for those who aren't aware of 3, we're a connectivity company. So 3 really focuses on connecting people to people, people to things, and things to things. We've got 9.5 million customers in the UK and growing. I lead the digital products team at 3, which is why I always look digital with my big headset on. You know, I've got to bring the technology to life. My team's really focused on all the digital products we have on web and app. A particular focus over the last 12 to 18 months has been on how we take technology to bring the personal touch into the digital journey. So looking particularly at the retail store experience and looking at how we can take that amazing in-store experience and actually bring it online so digital customers can experience that same feeling of being in store while they're sat at home on their sofa, probably in their PJs. And as you can imagine, over the last year, that's been the biggest focus for us with the high street closed. We've all had to accelerate how we've embraced this technology and the experiences. So it's been a very busy time for my team, a very exciting time actually. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of what we've been doing with you throughout this webinar.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching Three's journey over the years. It's got a touch of the old Orange about it, I think, and I say that as an ex-Orange man, because I loved, I spent 5 years at Orange right at the beginning, and I was so proud of our sort of disruptive innovation. And I kind of see you guys as sort of taking that part of the mobile scene now as well. So it's really good to have you on the panel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Mike, I'm going to ask you to say who you are, but just a quick thank you as well, Mike. You're actually the sponsor for this session as well. So thank you to you and Trust Systems for supporting the event. Tell us about you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mike Dowson. I'm the Commercial Director of Trust Systems. I'm also one of the owners of the company for my sins. We are slightly different to the other panelists. We're really at the sharp end of deploying, educating, consulting, and then managing technology in the retail environment. And our ethos is really about trying to get all those wonderful things that people see in the e-commerce world and transport them into the physical space. It is absolutely paramount for people today, especially with people coming back into stores in their droves, that they start to get some of the look and the feel that they've been enjoying sat in their pajamas and slouching on their couches. It needs to be personalized and it needs to be relevant. And that's what we're about, is taking all that lovely things, the sort of nirvana piece that people want to do, and actually making it work, from bulletproof networks, which are absolutely essential. So Emma talked about connectivity. It is crucial. If you don't have great wires in and out, it's not happening, because you can't have a stuttering performance. So there are some technologies that people are thinking are suitable for retail. We absolutely do not deploy them. They are there as backup devices. You can't walk away from the essential network piece. So that's a foundation of us. Security and data integrity is absolutely the core of that. GDPR is obviously at the heart of all of this, but it's really about bringing things to life, but with an ROI. So you can spend a lot of money on digitization at the store level. And if you don't get it right from an ROI perspective, then you're just throwing money in the wrong direction. So, we're an interesting business in the IT space. We don't manufacture things. What we do is we get best of breed products, we package them, and then we deliver them brilliantly as a managed service provision.
Great to have you with us, and thank you again for sponsoring the event. I'm looking forward to your contribution to the panel very much. We've actually had a question in from me already, and the question is, where is my dog? So we've clearly got a TRB regular who is used to seeing me appear with my dog Scamp. Don't worry, if you want to meet Scamp, she will be joining us for the 4 p.m. webinar today. But worry not, she's having an awesome play day on the King's Road. I kid you not, she's literally in Chelsea on a play date. So she's having a great time. I just received a video of her not long ago. So yeah, she'll be back at 4 o'clock. If you've tuned in for Scamp, come back later and see her at 4 o'clock. Let's kick things off. Sharon, I'm going to come to you if I may, and let's have a crystal ball moment. What could retail stores look like in the future? Talk me through, say, the next 12 to 24 months.
I think personally, I'm really excited about the future, because I think definitely last year has really had like a time of reflection, and it's sort of highlighted those that are really on the right path and those maybe that weren't on the right path. And I guess the importance of like really bringing your best game and to move forward. So I think definitely moving forward, I think things that people that will be successful and what it will look like is if we really like listen to our customers and what it is that they want. Also being very adaptable and nimble to the sort of changing landscape. So I think sort of companies that were embedded in one sort of form and weren't able to adapt or be more nimble quicker, I think suffered quite a lot. And I think the third important thing is definitely working together as a community. I think, you know, the high street has got to be like a social event, a destination. It can't just depend on one or two brands that are very successful. It has to be like almost like a force or a wave that will drive sort of that traffic and footfall into areas, and make it like really feel like a community. So I think together as sort of like shoppers and retailers and landlords, we all really need to work together to get what it is that we really want to make that successful. I think we definitely there needs to be a real purpose for it, to drive people to the high street. And I guess it's knowing the elements of what you can't get online, so the easy part of what you do get when you're in the store. And I think there's I would say sort of 3 key points for me. I think stores need to definitely play on being individual and not just being very generic. So I know sort of the term that you go and you see one brand and you know what it's like in everyone. I think you can have a basis, but you need to be adaptable and nimble and really show and adapt to sort of the areas where you're going to be attending in, because each different market within sort of the UK and around the world is very different. So I think definitely adapting to the needs of each area is really important. The second point is definitely, I think as a brand, Astrid and Miyu showed great resilience through the pandemic, because we do have a very personal and sort of unique experience within store and model. So yeah, for example, we don't just offer that you can come and buy jewellery, you can actually come and get your ear pierced, you can have like bracelet welding done, or you can get a tattoo done. So we've got that sort of nice balance of having a natural footfall that comes into the store, but also we're actually driving footfall into the stores through our sort of social media platforms to get people in there. So I think just being a point of difference from every other brand and really like working and growing that is super important. And then the third point was really about community. And I think it's really important that we all champion each other. So it's good to be sort of focused and develop yourself, but it's definitely super important, I think, that you collaborate with brands that are around you and like really support each other. Or also, like, for example, we now have an area dedicated in our Notting Hill store. It's called the Brand Lab, and it's where we've mentored new sort of businesses and helped them develop. And we've sort of given them like a little area within our stores to really like champion them and support them and guide them through sort of the first experiences within retail. And I think that's something that would benefit all of us in the future if we really like sort of give back and don't think that we're on one little planet alone. And it really does make a difference when we sort of work with other retailers to make ourselves and sort of the areas that we're in a success.
So I love that. I'm actually over that way, so I'm going to go check that out as well. That's a fantastic initiative. Really, really good. And I think as well, it's about, you know, the future of physical space is dependent on not being boring as well. And that's, I think, where people like the businesses like Trust Systems come in, because they help deepen the experience of the physical space, you know, by blending in digital and store and so on. And boring shops are the ones that don't make it, you know. And I think some of the things you've talked about there is everything but boring. So that's really fantastic to hear. Thank you so much.
I think if I can add to that, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
I think just picking up Sharon's point around the in-store experiences, I think that's, you know, so critical for us now as we move out. You know, the last 12 months at 3, through some of our channels, we've been able to continue trading digitally successfully, bringing the retail experiences online. But there's still a need for a retail store now the high street reopens up. But it's understanding what that experience is that is going to make someone get up out of their house now and go down to that store, because you can no longer just be there as a sales channel, because people have figured out over the last 12 months how to do their research online, how to buy online. So you need to give them that reason. And I think, you know, one of the things that 3 is doing, similar to Sharon's stories, we have our discovery section in our stores. So we have a team there we call our discovery team, and they're there to help you understand how to use your phone, how to get the best out of your phone, running sessions that you can book into to, you know, even figure out things like Instagram photo filters, you know, things like that, which is a reason for people to go in. It's not to do with selling, it's just to do with building an experience and a place for you to go. Yeah, exactly. When you
didn't have your stores, actually, and I'll stay with you, when you didn't have your stores open, and you are a communication company, how did you keep your customers connected during some of the lockdowns?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was absolutely critical for 3 to keep everyone connected. You know, friends and family staying connected with their loved ones was absolutely pivotal over the last 12 months. So it was really important for 3 that we could keep that connection going. There were a couple of things my team were actually working on pre-pandemic, but very quickly had to scale up in March last year, which helped with this. So one of the biggest projects we worked on is our channel called 3 Store Now. So we partner with a company called Hero for this, and it's essentially a one-on-one virtual personal shopping experience. What it allows is our digital customers to chat with retail store advisors, so they can get help, support, ask questions about what device is best to buy. And the retail store advisors are essentially chatting on their phone through an app. They can have text chat, they can send photos, videos, they can do video calling, and they can really bring that retail experience to life through a phone, essentially. They obviously the stores were closed, so we couldn't have retail advisors in the stores over the last 12 months on and off. But what we were able to do for the first time was enable those retail advisors to be able to work from home. So by kitting them up with this virtual personal shopper service, they were able to keep that connection going with the customers, and be there to help the customers at a time when they needed it the most. Alongside that, we had our 3 Live service. So this is our live broadcasting channel. Normally, we have a team of presenters who sit in a nice fancy studio in Glasgow, and they're broadcasting on our website about all the phones and deals we have. Obviously, that had to close during the pandemic, so we were able to kit up our presenters. All of their spare bedrooms essentially turned into 3 studios for the last 12 months, which was pretty impressive, because I'm not sure my spare bedroom is big enough to be a studio. But they did well, and for the last 12 months, they've been broadcasting from their bedrooms on our website to help customers see the phones, because you want that tactile element of seeing what one phone is like against another phone. How does it look when you actually turn it around? And so our presenters have been able to do live product demos, answer questions live on air. They've had fun polls and trivias to really drive that engagement. And both of these channels have really been all about getting that personal connection and keeping that personal connection going at a time when we're all communicating through a screen and we're all really missing that feeling of connecting to someone.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and I think that's been such an important part of survival over the last 12 to 18 months. That need to be connected, even digitally, has been such an integral part of our lives. So thank you for the part that you guys have played in it, 3 as well. Mike, I'm going to come over to you, if I may, sir. Why should retailers invigorate, their physical stores to create that seamless and relevant experience? Why should they?
Well, I think the simple answer is, and I think you've seen a lot of that in the recent past, is that they won't survive. The e-commerce platforms are so sophisticated. There's been a significant, ridiculous amount of investment by companies, and quite rightly so. There is now a tremendous and sophisticated network of delivery. So people are expecting better things all the time from their sitting at home shopping experience. So they've got to be theatres, and they've got to be theatres that have personalization. And I love the little thing that Sharon touched on before. It's really interesting, and time teaches you a lot of things. And I think this is why we can offer businesses a lot, because we've seen the errors of people who haven't digitized early enough, and they've just not survived. Sharon mentioned ear piercing. Okay, it's a value add in the business. But it's a core value add around the products and the activities of that store. I spoke with a business similar to that many years ago, and I said, there's some tools and there's some technology, and this is early days of store digitization. And I said, you need to be able to take the bookings on your e-commerce site, which you're doing, that's great. But when the person walks in the store, you've got to say hello to them. This could be a young girl, could be a traumatic time. She wants to do it, she's nervous, but you've got to put her at ease. And if she's not immediately meeting a store operative, a member of staff, then, she's alone. And even if she's with a parent, you need to make it personalized. So you should be welcoming the young lady. You should then be offering them opportunities to understand what's going on. Obviously, then you do the ear piercing, and then you've got a real opportunity. If you've got a joined up digitized experience, you can offer them vouchers, you can offer them a deal on earrings, you can and you know, a plethora of things that are relevant to the shopping experience of that moment. And then the crucial bit is, and this is where personalization goes to another level. Half an hour later, you are able to send that young lady a message. How are you feeling? How was the experience in the store? Are you pleased with what's happened today? Come back and see us if there's anything wrong. You know, maybe some little health tips, how to, you know, make sure that, that the piercing is looked after healthily. That just wasn't being taken on by these people some years ago. And hey, presto, they're not on the high street anymore. And I think there's opportunities for people like Sharon and a plethora of other retailers to get that complete journey. That little girl is going to think about that business in a completely different way. She's going to grow. She's going to, you know, emerge as a different type of shopper and customer over the time. And that personalization piece is going to hold them far better than somebody who doesn't have that experience. So that's just a small example. And we've got cloud tools and technology that enable those things. We don't have everything, but we collaborate beautifully with other partners. No man is an island in this business. You know, Sharon said no store is an island, really. You know, we are a community in this world. And a business like ours has to be very open to working in collaborative relationships, but each one gluing together to make sure that the experience is seamless and deliverable on a consistent basis. So
that's it's a brilliant answer. Thank you so much. And it's quite thought-provoking in that sense that it could almost sound cliched of me to say it, but it's about retail coming together as a community, regardless of being competition. It's, you know, this is a sector that needs to fight back as one, rather than lots of individuals running on different ways on the pitch, kind of all run together. So that's a really interesting answer. Thank you, Mike. Sharon, I'm going to come back to you again, if I may. Have you got an example of sort of store innovation experience that really aligns to online, you know, that kind of seamless transacting?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of what Mike was touching on about that sort of personalization with the sort of ear piercing. I think all those steps that he talks about, that's definitely things that we do. So for example, we definitely use our social media to connect with our retail stores in the sense that our customers are so engaged with it. So we use a lot of sort of content on things like what the journey of the piercing experience would look like. We also talk about the community in the area, so actually getting them engaged, not just with us, but with other brands as well, and really, you know, giving them sort of ideas. So for example, with the bracelet welding as well, we have a lot of times where it's maybe like for Mother's Day, that would be like a mum and daughter that would come in and do things like that together. So definitely sort of engaging in sort of more personalized experiences. And vice versa, we do the opposite with the in-store. So our stores are quite well known for being the most Instagrammable stores sort of on the high street. So we actually created like sort of small areas. We do encourage our sort of customers and community to do things like that and then post on social media. So you've got that sort of two-way stream that's sort of coming together and supporting each other. So it's not to overtake each other, but it's to sort of respect and engage with both channels, so that if you're just a customer that walked in, you know that, you know, we have a really good following on Instagram, and you'll sort of see that when you sort of engage with the communication with in-store, and vice versa. It's sort of like the social media really encourages you to come to the store, because you can't get that obviously online. It's a physical sort of experience within the store. So yeah, I guess that's one of the strongest points that we have. I think with digital styling as well, sort of what Emma touched on, we're just starting with that, but we found we got such a fantastic engagement. And I think it's nice, we've sort of used it more in a sense that, yeah, we do get sort of sales and things from it, and we have sort of high average value transactions, but we feel like it's a bit more of a social thing as well. So we've often seen that people that have been doing appointments online, when we've reopened, they've come in and specifically wanted to see the person that they dealt with there. like managers and wanting to go for coffees and all this sort of thing. So it's like just a nice sort of introduction. And I think using online by showing things like, we like to do little profiles on our managers, just as a sort of introduction, and then also of our Pearson teams. So you see like who it is that you might meet when you go to that store, and then you get to sort of pick and choose where you'd like to be. So I think being very transparent and open, so it feels both channels are sort of mirroring each other, and you already feel like familiar when you get there. It's not like a surprise, because I think people like to be nosy and sort of know things in advance as well. And I think those things just help to connect. And then the point of sort of emails that was brought up as well, we do sort of do that thing where we like to try and make them more personal on things that they've bought, and also if they've just had a piercing, checking in on them, making sure they're okay, and then like, when is your next piercing, and sort of encouraging them to come back, but in a nice way always. So yeah, I guess those 3 key points sort of align things together.
Okay, it's a brilliant answer. Thank you so much. I'm not going to have to get into your stores as well now. I'm going to have to go and check them out properly. I've not actually ever seen one, so I'll put it on my list. Emma, how is virtual shopping going to be part of, you know, your e-commerce strategy as we move to the other side of the pandemic?
I think virtual shopping, you know, it's the pace at which it's accelerated over the last 12 months has been huge, and the way that customers have embraced it, perhaps through necessity. I think people have had to start doing grocery shopping online when they never would have before, you know, because we've had to. And I think the growth that we've seen through that means that virtual shopping is going to remain key for us. It's really propped up our business over the last 12 months. It's been pivotal for us. And I think now that the stores are reopening, and dare I say it, things are starting to go back to normal. I'll touch wood as I say that, but you know, it's going to remain vital, because customers need that choice. And to Mike's point earlier, you know, it really shouldn't matter what channel customers choose to interact in. We need to be fully omnichannel in our approach, and we need to be offering that same amazing experience, whether a customer chooses to come online, or whether they choose to go in store, or whether they do a little bit of both. You know, and I think that's what we'll be really focusing on, particularly with our 3 Store Now channel, which is, you know, a customer might start the conversation online. They might want to chat with our stores and ask them some questions, do a bit of research. And then what we want to do is make sure that we're facilitating that local and personal connection, so the customer can then go in and talk to that same advisor. A bit like Sharon says, is building up that connection with that person in the store. So you can chat to, you know, the Reading store, for example, talk to Mike in the Reading store online. Then you can go in store and you can have the same conversation, continue that conversation in person. Perhaps you purchased while you're in store, or perhaps you've just got a few more options. And then when you leave that store, the challenge is then maintaining that conversation. So if the customer goes back home and then decides to purchase at home, we want to maintain that same relationship. And that's some of the features we have coming out over the next couple of months. One in particular is picking your local store to talk to. So you can physically choose, I want to talk to this store, and talk to that advisor. We've also then got pick your language to speak in. So actually, if your chosen language is French, for example, you can pick to speak to one of our retail advisors who speaks French, so you can get that connection going. And the other piece we have is we have our digital contact book. So when you leave the store and you've spoken with Mike in the Reading store, he can add you into his contact book on 3 Store Now. So when you go back to the website and if you reopen the chat, it will connect you with Mike. So you just keep that circle going as you're moving and flowing between the channels. And it means that as you go through your relationship with 3, from buying a phone, the phone, you know, in a year and a half's time, maybe wanting to change that or add something to it, you've got that ongoing relationship built up. And I think more than ever from the pandemic, I think we've all started to appreciate that whole staying local piece, getting to know your local stores and the local people in there and wanting that connection. So yeah, so back to your question as to how important will virtual shopping be for us, it's going to be incredibly important. And that's a huge area I think a lot of people need to be focusing on, is how you bridge that digital high street experience together.
No, I think that shop local, that community piece has again been something that's really come out over the course of the pandemic. Mike, we have an audience question for you, actually. It's an anonymous attendee, so thank you, anonymous attendee, whoever you are. but they're saying that we know that seamless connectivity in store is key, and the company they work for, KFP, provides 5G technology to the retail industry. But other than 5G, what do you see as the biggest innovations in physical store retail over the next 5 years?
Well, I think I'd make a couple of comments about connectivity first to put it into context. 5G has a part to play, 4G has a part to play, 3G had a part to play, but not to be too disparaging about those technologies, they are not enterprise capable because 5G isn't currently available everywhere. So if you set out your store to be 5G solution based, then you're going to come unstuck. People have tried that with 4G. The problem with that is that they'll do the test on a Wednesday morning, and when there's high demand on a Saturday afternoon, the connectivity just doesn't stay the course. And people who've tried that with click and collect and other technologies, digital signage, for example, have come a cropper. You know, there's a lot of IoT running on 4G, but it's very light in its data, and therefore that can sometimes survive a lot better. But we did some tests in lockdown where people were trying to rapidly deploy some COVID-based technologies, and they were trying to utilize it on 4G routers, and it just didn't work. And in the end, we just we tried to convince them that it had to be an enterprise class network. You can't avoid the fact that, you know, a fiber connection with higher bandwidth that's on or has some form of redundancy is going to give you a better experience, especially with the data loads. If it's a very light application, then that's fine. We deployed during the throes of the second lockdown. We were tasked by one company to go and deploy nearly 750 stores with digital signage. That was a mammoth task in itself, trying to get product from different countries, not least of all on the other side of the world, and bring them together with a solution set and a managed service up in the cloud. We achieved it, but we achieved it because we based it on core technology. So we already had in those stores a fantastic connectivity service, so high bandwidth, and we managed the Wi-Fi in that store infrastructure. And we automatically said, this can go onto a Wi-Fi. We'll use system on chip Tizen players, which are part of the Samsung product set. And all of a sudden, we've speeded up the deployment. It's a much more rapid deployment because you're not putting thousands of wires in the ceilings and connecting them back into ports that you may or may not have on switches. And we were able to deliver a whole range of digital content, mostly advertising and brand awareness messaging. But crucially, what we're also able to do is when Wales went into a different lockdown to the UK, we were able to, within minutes, deploy a message that was given to us by that marketing department through the managed service team and have it live in those stores and only those stores. And we knew it was happening because we were on proper enterprise class infrastructure. And when they needed to adapt that message or change it or regionalize it, we were able to adapt to those sort of things as well. So I think the innovations are going to be brought on by things like 5G. They're going to give us better capability, but I still see it as a redundant source because there is no replacement at this moment in time for wires that are constantly delivering higher bandwidth. And Emma's talking about it, Sharon's talking about it. You want this plethora of things that are bringing together experiences, and some of those technologies just don't have the capacity to carry them.
Yeah, it's really insightful, Mike, and lots for our audience to think about. Thank you so much for that. We've just had another question come in. No one's giving us their name today, so this is from a TRB guest. You're a shy lot out there today, so I'm going to go back to you, Sharon, with this one if you can. Okay. And I'll probably have Sharon and Emma talk about this one, but have you considered, this is from TRB guest, thank you, have you considered how you will draw digital natives back to your physical stores after such a long period of absence?
Oh, that's a good question. I think we've we've not had really much trouble. We've had such a high demand. I feel like it's sort of built, and this is more based on sort of services within the stores. I think the sort of age demographic of sort of 20s to 30s aren't so scared of and actually really thrive on the physical contact and being with their friends and sort of socializing within retail environments. So we haven't had so much of a challenge in that. And we've sort of seen like our appointments booked up sort of 4 weeks in advance. I guess it's a little bit like the hairdressers. They feel like it's like a necessity more than sort of a requirement. But yeah, I think from our side, we just sort of continue to engage on sort of social medias with stories and communities, and not just about sort of we're not just selling products, but also talking about sort of self-care and showing them that we're just more than just selling jewellery. It's more of like joining us as a community. So hopefully they want to come and see us in person to do that as well. Because it can get very boring online sometimes. I think we're all a bit sick of it and just want to actually see things and feel things and experience it with people. And yeah.
Yeah, I was doing some comp shopping with a client last week, and I was just having the best time being back out in stores again.
Yeah.
It was like a kid in the sweet shop moment, literally.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Emma, you've already shed some light on some of this about how you're using your stores, but anything more to add to that, kind of bringing in digital natives into the physical space, persuading them away from online?
Yeah, I'd be controversial and say why try and do it? You know, let the people who want to go into store go into store, and they'll go in because they want that experience. They'll want to maybe feel the products, see the products. They will want to talk to someone in person. And for those that don't want that, digital natives, then we have to concentrate on giving them the best possible digital experience. We shouldn't be trying to persuade people to go from one channel to the other. It's all about giving that choice to that consumer. So if they're digital native, they want to interact digitally. So let's do what we can. Let's introduce AR to the experience, to show the device in your living room. Let's use live video. Let's try and inject that personality into the journey. There's no need to try and push people back into retail. People will go there in floods, and you know, we've seen it from the stores when they open. We've seen the queues outside, and certainly outside the 3 shop we had queues for the people that chose to go there and wanted to go there. So for me, it would be less about persuading people and more about just make the experience within that customer's chosen channel as amazing as it can possibly be.
It's not controversial at all, actually, because I think you've raised a really good point. I've always been really interested by the sort of the obsession around the words multi-channel and omnichannel, because they're words that we use behind the scenes as retailers, but customers don't think like that. Customers don't think, what channel am I going to shop with, with 3 today, for example. They just want to shop with 3. And it might be they jump on their laptop or on their device, or it might be they want to come to your store, but customers don't think in channels, they think in brands, and so I think that's really what your point was making. And that we have obsessed over those words over the years. Mike, coming back to you, how do retailers create that all-important digital footprint that really connects them to their customers?
Well, I suppose you've got to look at what you have to start with. You can't just bring the big checkbook out and use a phrase from a few years ago from politics, find yourself a magic money tree. You've got to try and sweat assets that you've already invested in. But the reality is paper is going to disappear. Cardboard is going to disappear. So you've got to start with something that's meaningful. And if you can collaborate, going back to that community thing with, if you're a food retailer, you've got a plethora of partners because you're supplying brands of all sorts of different of type and nature. And I think there's got to be a tie-in from suppliers and retailers to try and invest in this invigoration for the way in which you communicate and the way in which you educate within a digitized space. But I love I don't see it as controversial, Emma. I love that point, and this is the real essence of store digitization. It has to be similar to the home experience so that it's not some jolt or some weird experience that's so different. You're looking for something that's seamless. So if you're looking at a shirt online, if I'm looking at a shirt online, I want to really test the fabric. I want to feel it. Certainly, if I'm buying furniture, I mean, buying furniture online is a real lottery. You want to sit on it, you want to touch it, you want to feel it. And the store is always going to be the place to do that. But when you walk into the store that you've been viewing their products online, you want that connection. You want to be able to be told where the products you were looking online are sitting in that store, rather than, because you know, there aren't 400 people to serve you in a store. You know, the cost of labor in retail is the biggest cost of the day. So giving retailers agile technologies, you know, MPOS, clienteling devices is the essence of giving a better experience, because you can do a lot more with less. So some of the technologies that we're embracing and delivering for clients at the moment are really about sweating assets. So you may have a device, it could be a Zebra device that you scan your stock with 1 minute, but actually you could do a payment, you could do a product lookup, you could do some form of clienteling experience with that same device, delivered by a cloud service over an enterprise network. So you've got this ability to flip in and out, but always taking this essence of what was the start of the journey and making it a familiar place. So, you know, that, I think, you know, some of the things that Emma's talked about, I think they're doing a great job there, because those that didn't have the ability to do some form of communication piece, you know, I actually did buy some things through a personal shopping experience with a brand, I don't mind saying, with John Lewis, while I was in lockdown. And, you know, as much as they tried, there were certain gaps in their technology, and I'm sure they're looking at that now. And I don't see that as a criticizing them, an opportunity for them, because actually it was a great experience where I could get a lot of things done very conveniently. But I'd already been in store and seen some of those things, but I didn't have the time to package it and do the whole shopping experience in the store. So it was a blended experience. I bought some things in store, I bought some things from a personal shopping experience online, but the experience was very, very familiar and similar.
Thank you, Mike. We've had another question in, actually, and we are zooming through time as well. So Sharon and Emma, I'm going to bring this question to both of you, and then I'm going to move on to Mike for the big close, if that's okay as well. So Sharon, this will be your last question. Thank you again, whoever sent this question in. They also said great session, so you've had some feedback there, panel, so thank you very much. But with the shifting customer behavior, we've heard a lot about the anytime, anywhere shift and the focus on good customer service creating brand loyalty. Have you made any changes to your customer service?
Yeah, I would say definitely we sort of widened the availability of our customer service, like within the store. So we've made things more accessible, I suppose, like in terms of timings, trying to make it more convenient for customers at what times they come in at, and also just really widened our range. So really, I suppose what I spoke about before a little bit, just actually really listening to what they're asking for and then adapting to that. So I think that's probably been the biggest thing, is just to really listen to our customers and adapting to what their needs are, and not just sort of thinking about us just as a business, but sort of the wider picture in the community as well. So yeah.
And thank you, Sharon. And in terms of, you know, you said you increased the hours that your customer service was available. So yeah. Was it a significant change?
Quite significant. And I think also, as we move forward as well with sort of customer service, we're trying to make sure that it's not like, we really never want it to be robotic. So actually, when you're online and you're asking someone a sort of question about customer service, it is actually another human being that's talking to you. You'll never get like an automated sort of question or answer from anyone like that. So I think just as a brand, that's one of our sort of core values, is to make sure it's very personalized. So that's, yeah, that would be another thing we did.
Thank you so much. And Emma, from a 3 point of view, was there a big shift in the way that you served customers, or your customer service approach?
Yeah, I think particularly during the pandemic, we had to have a massive shift, because when the first lockdown hit, you know, our contact center in India had to close while we figured out setting up the home working for them. So that left us a big gap to try and fill from a customer service perspective. So using some of the products I've mentioned already, so 3Store Now, for example, which was our retail commercial tool primarily, actually we're able to put all of our India contact center agents onto that platform to suddenly offer it up as also a support tool for customers. And we went from having about 350 chats a day to over 7,500 chats a day suddenly, so that we could use both our contact center and our retail agents to help offer that customer support package. And similar to Sharon, we've extended our support hours. So as we went through the year, we extended out the hours to kind of acknowledge that actually during the last year, a lot of working professionals had children at home. They're having to do homeschooling. You needed flexibility on the hours to be able to contact your brand for support. So we were opening much earlier in the morning. We were closing much later in the evening to try and make ourselves as available as possible to our customer base. I mean, customer support, customer service is hugely important to 3. We spend a lot of time trawling through all the conversations, all the feedback, all the verbatim comments that customers send in. And, you know, one of the great strengths of our 3Store Now platform is that we have all the chat transcripts, which we're able to go through. And through that, customers who would normally shop in store have been feeding back to us what is and isn't working online. And we've been able to take all of that amazing feedback and suddenly make a lot of improvements to processes to improve that customer experience and improve the customer support that we offer. So it's definitely been a big focus area for us the last 12 months, and it will continue to be, because it's so important to get that brand loyalty piece right. You need to be offering the right customer experience.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Sharon and Emma, for all of the insights that you've offered to the panel today so far. Mike, I'm going to bring a closing question to you, which is from an audience member again. And again, a nameless one. They're a shy bunch today, but they're all great questions, so they should put their name to them. But thank you for this question. How much effort and resource are you seeing retailers, I mean, you work with a lot of retailers, so how much effort and resource are you seeing retailers put into their data analytics and business intelligence to really support the personalization of the experience?
Interestingly enough, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges as a vendor of those services over the last few years. And I think it's still a struggle for any retailer. And I think we'd like to say it's not, but all of a sudden, once you start to digitize and collect, and Emma's just talked about some fascinating numbers there, you know, just getting your head around how many words are in all those chats and how many variations of themes are in those chats. How do you do that? So I think there is a need, as much as you want to sort of grab all this data and manipulate it and act on it, you have to have some baby steps, and you've got to think about, well, what's the most effective thing I can do in the short term? What's day one issue? What's my biggest issue of my business? What's my biggest concern from my customer base? And what can I close down from a concern by using data? And how do I increase basket size? You know, I mean, from any retailer, you put £1 or £2 on a shopping basket on a regular basis, you're changing the whole picture of your business. So I think there's a massive investment required and a bit of thought required as you start to digitize and you start to get a data lake. People are trying to build a data lake before they've actually started to think about how they use it, which is quite bizarre, but, you know, each to their own. But, you know, there are some fantastic tools. We've got some technologies from some business partners where you can create rules-based engines. So if it's me, you get a message. If it's Emma, she gets a message. If it's Sharon, she gets a message. They can be gender, they can be age related, they can be time of day related, they can be weather related, they can be product related, they can be time of season related. But all that stuff needs some thought and some consideration. And I'll leave you with this thought. So many years ago, and I'm the elder statesman on this call, so I am able to say this, but many moons ago, I've been in this industry for nearly 30 years, but I used to be in the hospitality business, and I used to sit in a room with some colleagues, and we used to ponder on what we were going to sell in July, and we were in January. And it was the drinks industry. So what products were going to be popular? Was it a World Cup season? Was it an Olympic season? You know, what were the general sports themes or big events of the year? And we were trying to cram our heads with all sorts of data about what was going to be happening in 6 months' time. What was the supply chain going to look at? What was the pricing going to be from competitors? What were competitors going to bring to the market? What the digitized space does for retail today is it closes that time lag. You now can react a lot quicker. And as long as you've got free thinking people and you empower them to generate interest that's logical and relevant, then there's an awful lot of things that you can do to create and expand the opportunity for your customers. And if I had the tools, 30 odd years ago, and I was sat in those days, a smoke-filled room in a brewery, trying to work out what my competition and my client was thinking in 12 months or 6 months time, I could have cleaned up if I had some of the technologies of today. So my thirst for this is obviously very obvious, but I think there's a lot of people out there in retail who've got that thirst as well, and I think now is the time to embrace and quench. Closing
words of wisdom, indeed. You've taken my mind back to all of those smoke-filled days. I used to work at Whitbread, actually, and I used to be a regional manager at Costa Coffee, and it was quite common for us all to sit around in a meeting in one of the stalls all smoking cigarettes, and it was all quite normal, and it just seems bizarre thinking back now. Reform smoke around.
I don't miss that, but I do miss the tea trolley that used to come along the corridor.
Brilliant. I mean, what a brilliant panel. Thank you so much. Mike, thank you to you as well. And thank you again for your sponsorship and for Trust Systems support today. Well, that's a wrap. Do you know what? We've held our audience again. We actually grew slightly from the audience we started with. So panel, you've done something right. Thank you so much for that. Do check our panelists out. We do record these sessions and we'll be sharing the recording on LinkedIn and YouTube later on today. The next session is coming up in just over an hour's time at 1 o'clock, webinar session number 2. That's digital e-commerce, that special word coming up, transformation. So you'll be hearing from a 5-strong panel at 1 o'clock today. But lastly, for me to say again, Sharon, Emma, Mike, thank you so much. You've been brilliant. You've made it absolutely whiz by. And for those of you that are going to come back and see us later on, we'll see you in just over an hour for the next session. For now, thank you very much. Thanks to my panelists and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.